this is kind of off tangent, but I think one of the best benefits of learning a second language or like having a second language is how you can have two cultures.
Hello, and welcome back to the Voice for You podcast, where we empower the leaders of today and tomorrow. I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana. Today, I'm joined by a young leader in our community. With a passion for his heritage and culture, he strives to make a change for Latinos all across the U.S. Through his many works from journalist to award-winning playwright, he shows that fiery passion for ridding injustice, advocating for immigration reform, and helping bridge the two distinct worlds into one. His work has definitely not gone unnoticed, as he was awarded the Koch Scholarship and was named an HSF Scholar. Serving to close the gap, he is Mr. Juan Wulff. How are you doing today, Juan?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well myself. It is summertime, so, sun's out. Well, technically not the sun out right now. It's currently pouring where I am. So.
Oh, really? No, I have
yeah.
nice weather.
Yeah. The rain is peaceful at times too, though. Especially like in the morning, it's like just rain, no thunder. It's beautiful, especially to sleep to. It's like
sure, it's relaxing. It's relaxing.
Yeah, very, very relaxing. So before we get to the interview, tell me a little bit more about yourself, your hobbies, your passions, your interests, just who you are as a person.
Yeah, so again, my name is Juan Wulff. I was born in Venezuela, which means that I was born outside the country and I immigrated to the United States. Since I arrived in high school, I've been really passionate about immigration reform, writing, justice, and through that I've just kind of developed my passions. Next year, I'll be going to Harvard, so I'll be staying where I'm from, Boston. So I'll be staying in the area, and for hobbies, I like to solve Rubik's cubes, dance salsa, and go out with friends a good amount. So yeah.
That's nice. No, I'm also an immigrant. I was born in India. My parents lived here before, and then they went to India. I was born, and then we came back. So definitely, yeah. I understand the immigrant struggle. Definitely, especially with nowadays with Latinos and stuff. The work that you do is amazing. But before we get into all that serious stuff, I like to start off my interviews with a lighthearted question. So, in your opinion, what color would best describe you? First off, what's your favorite color?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a favorite color. I don't know. I haven't thought about this. Like a dark tone green, I think.
Why would it be that?
It's like power. It has some strength to it, but it's nice. It's a little tropical. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just pulling something out of nowhere, but we'll see.
These questions are not, they're the more unconventional questions that people don't expect. Like the first question I always ask, it's like, whoa, I would have never expected that. And they just sit there and ponder for a good minute or two. But yeah. So obviously you did mention that you are going to Harvard this coming year. So what attracted you to going to Harvard? Obviously you're in the Boston area, so that probably was a factor. Was there anything else that attracted you to go to Harvard, like any programs or any culture stuff, or just what attracted you to Harvard?
Yeah, so I never thought I would go to Harvard, and I didn't even think I would get in the first place. Frankly, in a college, I was really looking for an opportunity to continue my work in writing. So that means really good accessibility to research funding, independent research funding, really good professors who are willing to work with me on that research. And then on top of that, really strong connections to the government, really strong government programs, as well as a good community. I visited a couple colleges once I was admitted. I did not decide. I decided May 1st, which is the deadline. And what really made me choose Harvard, frankly, was all of the government programs and the Crimson, which is the student newspaper. Regarding the government programs, the Institute of Politics is really established there, and they have 18 different diverse programs of things to do in government with fantastic connections. Actually, a week before we were I was at Harvard, Joe Biden was there, and then the next day before I left, Tim Walz was going to be there. So I realized that if I wanted to be like locked into the government, I needed to go there, um, and that was like the next step for me. Um, and then regarding the Crimson, I had a friend from high school actually give me a tour of the Crimson, and I fell in love. And I realized that like that's the place I want to do journalism. That's the place I want to be around. That's the community of writing I want to be involved myself. That community of practice I think you can talk about. And then the last thing that really pulled me through is that I was really worried that kids from Harvard were just gonna be like Harvard. I'm only here
Yeah.
because like the prestige. But I actually found a lot of really cool people. I'm not gonna deny that there's a couple people that I'm like, dude, shut up. But for the most part, like there are like every single college. I think I realized that I can realize in the whole college process that every single college campus is really diverse, and there's a lot of people, a lot more than high school usually. So you'll
Yes.
the really cool part about that is that you will find your people wherever, regardless you go. So I think that's like another factor that definitely pulled me through at the end.
So, being an HSF scholar, you are very intact with your heritage, especially with all your work that you've done. What do you believe is your balance between your Venezuelan and Latino culture and your American culture? Like, do you have a balance between the two? Do you mix the two, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think with questions of identity, I usually talk about the hyphenated identity, right? Venezuelan, American with a hyphen in between. I really see my identity as that hyphen, right? As that thing that bridges the two together. Um, I think in that mixed identity, because I am in America, often the call to my identity is to retain the Venezuelan one and to honor the Venezuelan one, because everything else I do here is American culture for the most part, if that makes sense. So I think
Yeah.
that as an immigrant, like a question of retaining my two cultures, it's just keeping traditions, keeping practices in my life, whether it's dancing, food, like speaking Spanish with my family, right? Those little things add up to retain part of my identity. Um, but I bring my identity, my perspective, and everything I do. I really do think my experience as an immigrant, the ability just to speak Spanish, right? Um, that the kind of experience and the perspective it gave me, I think is super critical in everything I do, and I think it's part of those things that even if I'm not thinking about it, impacts my decisions, who I work with, what I work with, how I work with it.
Yeah, definitely. Also as an immigrant, I can definitely relate to what you say. Like the hyphen is definitely what a lot of immigrant kids, should and probably do identify with. I take much pride in my Indian heritage, like just like you take pride in your Venezuelan heritage. But when we're in the U.S., everything that we do, it's already seen as American because everyone else is doing the same stuff. So
Yes.
that's American. But what we do separately is what defines our other heritage, whether it's Venezuelan for you or Indian for me. So
Yeah,
definitely,
for sure.
definitely. So where did you start realizing you had passion for humanitarian work?
So I guess attended because it's past tense because I just graduated, but I attended a Catholic Jesuit school for 4 years for high school. That was where I went to high school. And I think part of the Catholic Jesuit mission is being a person for and with others, right? Living a life of service, living a life dedicated to others, and I think that was really emphasized in my education all 4 years. And then I think between doing a lot of service through my school, doing a lot of reflection, going on retreats, I realized that what compelled me was to help others, to use my gifts to enrich the world and enrich myself. Therefore, so I think that was what really kickstarted, and because I think humanitarian work and service I think is so rewarding. I think I really kept on with that. Like I had no reason to stop. And I think once I realized it was my mission, it has been a thing that only gives since, right? It just gives and
Yes.
gives and gives and gives. Um, and I think I could not envision my life without doing any sort of humanitarian work or like nonprofit work.
Definitely, definitely. But like when you say humanitarian work, there's so many like things in humanities that you can find with. So how did you center it down to like immigration reform and like working with like Latinos and all that?
Yeah, so I definitely have like done a lot of service, like different things. I think it just came down because, as an immigrant and seeing anti-immigrant rhetoric, and then seeing my place in that call to action, like really seeing how I can join others fighting for justice. I think that's how I was really compelled to join. And again, like once I started doing work with immigrants, I was like rewarded, and I felt good doing it, and I enjoyed doing it. And it wasn't easy, but I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do. It felt as if my talents were, being put to good use. So I wouldn't stop. I worked, and I invested my time in it. Um, and yeah, like it keeps giving. I learn a new thing about myself every day working with immigrants. I learn a new thing about the immigrant community every day. Um, I'm like, I'm not even close to like, being done.
Definitely, definitely. So obviously, with your immigrant work, you did start under the F.R. Begley Scholarship. Sorry if I did pronounce that wrong. You founded Through Their Eyes, documenting migrant disenfranchisement across the U.S. Mexico border. So, what is the F.R. Begley Scholarship specifically, and in the grand scheme of things, how did it help with you starting Through Their Eyes?
Yeah, so the Father Brightly Scholarship was a scholarship provided by my school to two rising seniors. Um, well, it was three. They named three this year, but usually it's two or three rising seniors to do research. Um, I applied for it and I received it, and I used those funds to travel to the U.S. Mexico border. Um, the Father Bailey Fund is like the only reason I did what I could. I don't have the money to do all this research by myself, obviously, and I think, as a more general message, I think I'm super privileged and lucky that my school had an opportunity like this. And I know not every single school has an opportunity like this. I think it's something pretty unique to my school. But I really would encourage people, like, there are so many grants out there, like even for like people as young as 14, to get money into your work. And if you're passionate about it, if you know how to write that passion, if you know how to show that passion, and you have some sort of background to back it up at least, you can definitely get funding for what you want to do. It's more than feasible. It's more than doable. And I think, I don't think it's something a lot of people do in high school and like think about in high school, like getting funding for your work. Um, but I would definitely encourage people to go out and do it because it's really transformative.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that's how most people get their work started. We are high school students at the end of the day, so money is not gonna come easy for us. A lot of us are
Yeah.
like, I assume most high schoolers are working jobs too, so they have that. They have being students too, so definitely like these grants and stuff. It definitely helps. So, how was your experience down at the U.S. Mexico border? Obviously, you did travel with your team, as you did have a photographer on your team as well. So, how was that like? And how did that experience like help gain perspective on what you want to do in college and all that?
Yeah, so this was a huge idea, right? Like having a group of high schoolers go down to the U.S. Mexico border to do journalism is pretty like unheard of, frankly. It's a little out there, but I decided to take the risk because I believed in what I was doing. I believed that we would do good, and I believed that the stories we were documenting were not being documented enough. And I was right, luckily, thank God. If not, it wouldn't have all paid off. But so long story short, what we were able to do is we were able to go down. We were able to spend time with migrants on both the U.S. and the Mexico side. This was during the Biden administration, in around July. So a lot of migrants were waiting right south of the Mexico border to enter legally through an app called CBP-1. But they were waiting in tragic conditions, right? They were living without constant access to water, in tent encampments that would flood, and without proper access to hygiene, and like pretty much camps that had been set up overnight. So they were living in these really tragic conditions because after having to migrate, they would have to wait for this appointment. So I really went there to document all that. document some of the consequences of the Biden administration's policy beyond the United States. And then I also spent time in shelters talking to leaders in like the border landscape, specifically in the Rio Grande Valley. I spent time talking with them and sitting down with them and interviewing them, and it was just really fruitful. And I learned a lot. I don't think I could go over all of that I learned in like the one. Like an entire episode could be dedicated to it, at least it wouldn't be done. But I think that the thing that I was reminded again and again, I think, is the power of humanity, the power of stories, and how the power of humanity linked through stories can really, I think, is the best form of journalism. Just like what you're doing here, you're asking me my story, right? That's more compelling to an audience than just giving them stats about me or giving them like things about me, right? It might take longer to document a story. It might take longer to read a story, to get immersed in a story. But I think it's the most effective way to truly get something across. And I think that was emphasized to me again. And I think to this day, in all my writing, I really try to implement the power of like a good story in it.
Definitely. Did this trip to the U.S. Mexico border help you decide what you were going to major in college, or did you already have this idea of that major happening in college and then you going down there and just helps reaffirm it?
No, completely. Yeah, no, this like doing all that, I think I really realized that that's what I actually wanted to do, because I think that's, traveling was the first official big thing that I did for immigration, and I think I realized that I loved it. So I looked for colleges that had either a center for ethnicity, migration, and rights, or ethnicity, rights, and migration, or ethnicity, rights, and immigration. Like, it's all different variations of names. So I looked for colleges that had that have programs or majors around that, and I applied to those schools either with that major, minor, and then I also knew I loved writing through this, so I went in as English, but I loved writing in the context of the government and the political scene, so I went in for like English, politics and stuff like that. I switched around majors, like even when applying. Like I don't think you have to stress that much about majors, frankly. That's like one of my like takes. Like, don't really sweat it unless like you're like a pre-med warrior who's like medicine since day one. But even then, like it's not the end of the world. Like, if you don't have exactly what you want to do when you go into college.
Definitely.
And I know for sure I'll switch.
Definitely. It is. I'm currently a rising senior, right? So it's definitely a struggle because I've technically like graduated for like less than a week. I've already gotten questions like, "What do you want to do in college? Where do you want to go to college? Like, what are you going to do this? Where are you going to do this? Why do we do this?" Like, it's definitely. And then like I don't know, because like I would say I'm like kind of undecided. I have a couple of fields in mind. Like, obviously I have a big passion for humanitarian work and talking to people, but I also have a STEM side to me which is I find really interesting. So balancing the two is definitely something that not just me, many kids go through. Like, you probably were in the same spot like at one point, trying to figure out what you wanted to do with college. That's a lot of students nowadays, which is a good thing about the US too, because take like a country like one of the third world countries, they don't give you multiple paths to grow as a person. But the US, they have multiple different stuff, so you can do whatever you feel like you want to do.
Yeah. No, I agree. My parents, when they went to university, you had to choose a career path from day one. And if you dropped out of that career path, you had to start university again. So for example, my mother did a year of medicine and then started in architecture. So I think I definitely do appreciate the flexibility of the United States in that sense.
Definitely. So obviously you before the Mexico border stuff, you already had this idea, and you did go over a little bit, but if you could briefly tell, what was the inspiration behind Through the Eyes?
Through Their Eyes, the biggest inspiration, again, it's like my local immigrant community, whether like from as close to my family to like the people that I teach ESL with and for, like, and that I teach ESL for, the people like that own the restaurant on the block, the people that like are on the train every day I get on and maybe crack a conversation with, the people who work, at the universities that I will be going, people who work at my school. Like immigrants, I think are everywhere, and I think we don't really talk about that much. And the footprint, the trail, the cultural trail that immigration leaves is also everywhere, and I think is more present than we think of it. So I think that's what really moved me, because there is no space I occupy that is not a space that has been impacted by immigrants, right? There is no place I go that doesn't have that trail left in it of immigration, of cultural identity of an immigrant. So I don't think there's a single moment that I'm like, wow, immigrants have never been here, right? Like I really am moved to just because it's a community I care about, and it's a community I see everywhere.
So obviously, you are very deep in your culture. So what is your favorite part about your culture, just in general?
Dancing. I love dancing and music. Yes. I think this is kind of off tangent, but I think one of the best benefits of learning a second language, or like having a second language, is how you can have two cultures. And for me, it's like being able to listen to two complete sides of music, right? And like
Oh,
all of
definitely.
that and how they come together. I think it's fantastic. And I really recommend it for anyone who doesn't know how a second language to learn one, because it's awesome.
Definitely, definitely. My favorite part of my culture is, in India they have multiple different languages, just like spread out the whole country. I speak Telugu,
Um,
so my favorite part of mine is definitely like the movies and the songs. I
yeah.
I spend a lot of time, listening to the music and watching movies whenever I get the chance. I usually just turn on an Indian movie and just watch that too. And obviously being a part of India, there's multiple different cultures. We're all one ethnicity, but it's still multiple different cultures in one. So I also like exploring those too. So
Yeah,
definitely
that's good.
yeah, the dancing part, Bolly, do you know what is this? Because I know there's multiple different like dance styles in Latino culture. So what is like the dance style that you resonate with and like the most?
Um, like salsa and merengue, which are pretty similar, but I love them both. Yeah, they're particularly Venezuelan as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Salsa. I mean, obviously, a lot of people know what the salsa is.
Mhm.
Not just the dipping sauce, but the dance style too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yeah, as an Indian, Bollywood dance steps, we get
yeah.
made fun of every now and then, but they really are good. Like they don't sleep, bro.
No, 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 I'm not sleeping. I'm not sleeping. I'm not sleeping.
So obviously with Through the Eyes, you were able to partner with, you had a team and you were able to publish with top news companies such as Newsweek and the America Magazine. So how were you able to make these connections with these top companies that produce such big, news stories like that?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you know the power of this, because the reason I'm here is because of it. But I think you have to learn the power of the cold email. I think you have to learn the power of like the cold DM, or the power of the random like submission. Um, I keep telling people, one of the things I say is like, I get rejected much more than I get accepted. Right? I get ghosted way more than I get replies. And that's, that might sound a little tragic, but I am so happy with where I'm at, where with those few replies have gotten me. So regarding like the article, I had this idea for like the open border myth article, this op-ed, and I was like, this is a good article. I believe this is a good article. I think this is a good opinion. I think it's well written. And I believed in myself enough, and I submitted it. And I heard back from one. I submitted to like 15, to like all the big ones. Obviously, I didn't hear back from all of them. Some of them were like, we'll think about it. Some of them didn't even reply. Some went straight up no. Um, but I got back from one, right? And I think that matters. And then again, like I think that we need to stop shaming rejection a little bit, because there's literally nothing wrong with it. Because I think rejection just shows that you worked somewhere to get to where you're at, right?
Exactly.
So, um, yeah, just like reaching out to people, it's much more valuable than I think people realize. And same thing with like my research, right? Like all those people I got to interview, like I didn't just know them. Obviously, they live in
Yeah,
like the Rio Grande Valley, right? I emailed them and I'm like, let's set up a time. Like some of them didn't reply to me. Some of them I had to like call. Some of them I had to find different paths to reach out to them. But again, there is
definitely,
power in just like trying. You
definitely.
don't lose anything by trying.
Yeah. That is the common theme everybody has been telling me,
Really?
network, network, network. It's
Yeah.
definitely every single interview I've done so far, it's mentioned and very heavily emphasized. And obviously, I 100% agree. Like you said, if I didn't network myself, we wouldn't be having this conversation
Yeah,
right now,
exactly. Like
So,
this podcast is a testament to the power of that. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
and I
You
think,
know,
I used to think networking was really like corny. I used to be like, oh, like, oh, you're a cornball on a network or whatever. But I think I realized like networking, like it's a stupid name. I think the name networking is corny itself. But it like networking literally just means meeting people, right? It literally just means like
exactly.
meeting new people. That's literally what it is. Um, and it's meeting different people. So like they can be done in so many different ways. And just like reaching out. Um, and like going to like an event and like talking to one person and for example, like I went to this immigration conference at Harvard a couple months ago, and I met this guy who owns a brewery in San Diego. And he was on a panel there, and we caught up. He was a great guy, and like 3 weeks later, he's like, Juan, I have an idea for a startup. Like, can you help me work on the pitch for it? And I helped. Like, we spent like 3 hours working on a pitch, and I haven't talked to him much since. Like, we keep in touch, but like that's the stuff that kind of happens just by like knowing people and being out there.
Exactly, exactly. Like you said, it's meeting new people, and it doesn't hurt. Like, even though you could have like 15 people, you get 14 rejections, that one acceptance though can change
Yeah,
your life. Like,
it's
it can
huge.
change your
It's
life for
huge.
the better.
It's
It's
huge.
it's massive, especially if you're dealing with, like, in your case, like, take like the big companies. You said you matched like 15 of them. Two of them did reach back out to you, and like those two, like Newsweek and American Magazine, there are big magazines.
So yeah,
So so even with those other 13 rejections, the two acceptances still change a lot, and
yes,
get yourself on a bigger scale. So definitely,
yes.
I see where you're coming from there. So especially in today's day, you went to the border when the Biden administration was there. But,
Yeah.
Biden compared, I don't know, I can't speak for this because, you've done your research. You could probably speak more on this than me. But from what I've heard and seen, Trump is being a lot more strict, a lot more, on point, and, more
Punitive, yes.
volatile more volatile than Biden ever was when it comes to immigration policy and all that. He's taking perfectly fine immigrants in these states and, deporting them, even
Yes.
though they're completely fine. So, what are especially as someone that works with the humanitarian field, how powerful do you believe your message is you're trying to send in terms of this? And what are your thoughts on what's going on currently in the US?
Whoa, that's a lot. There's a lot going on. I think that there's two things that I have an issue with. Um, First of all, it's a violation of dignity of the human person, right? Every single person has dignity, right? Taking someone from work and their child never being able to see them again, right? Sending someone to a sloppily to a El Salvadorian prison because they have a tattoo honoring their two parents, right? And not being able to bring those people back, right? Sending them to one of the worst prisons in the world for having two tattoos and being in immigration proceedings, right? Even if they entered here legally, that is sloppy. That is a violation of human dignity. And I think I'm not here to also give Biden a lot of credit because I went down to the border and saw a lot of suffering, a lot of violation of dignity during the Biden administration. I think Trump is a lot worse. I think that that electing him was a mistake, not only for our communities but for our morality as a nation. If we want to be considered a moral, just democracy, and I think that that's one part. And then, just speaking from an American perspective, the Constitution cannot be violated, right? I think that I think I think the morality part of it is super important, but there's also just the objective constitutional part of it. The Constitution is the law of the land. You have to give due process to people to prove their citizenship status. You have to give them the equal protection under the law. You have to give them a right to an attorney, as guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. Like, there is so many constitutionally. There's just so many things that we are called to honor. And the second we break one, we open the window breaking all. And that's just a path to authoritarianism, right? Laws are not there to be broken. Laws are there to be obeyed. So the whole system works. So, yeah, a lot going on. I think that, but I'll end in a positive note that this is the time that I think immigration organizations and advocacy are coming together and they're working together because it's a time to act together. And I'm really happy with all the work that has been done in the courts and the judicial system to fight back against these orders, and also all the community uprising, whether it's like Know Your Rights workings, switching to like ESL classes online, and all these things that they've made work for the immigrant community.
Definitely. So do you feel like you've had an impact with your work that you've done, especially in today's scene too? Or how big of an impact do you think you've made?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't know, frankly. Because when, you can say that like, oh, it's impressive, whatever, getting published, but I think sometimes, especially as a writer, it's really hard to make your impact tangible, because you don't know. I really think of my work as there's this quote from Dorothy Day. It's about throwing your pebble in a pond and letting your ripples do the work. I really think about like letting the ripples of my work, like the letting my opinions go out in the world and make their own impact I'll never realize. I think I have made an impact on like my local immigrant community by teaching English and like working within that. Like, I think I have made a direct impact, like doing certain parts of advocacy, like Know Your Rights stuff. But like, I do think most of my impact is indirect in the sense that it's really about getting views that dignify migrants out there, so people, when they go vote, when they think of where they're going to volunteer, where they're going to donate their money, when they see something unjust happen, and just think if they're going to stand up to it, right? I think my work is just putting them in the headspace and giving them a perspective to make a choice that will dignify the migrant community.
But, obviously with everything you said, you are a massive humanitarian activist, but you're also a very, very accomplished writer, also with earning the Gold Key Scholastic Art and Writing Award. So what was your piece that you wrote on about, and, how did that, because, when you write about something and you win an award for it, that means you do have a deep connection to it. So what did you write about, and, what was that connection that you had with it?
Yeah, I write about things that I care about. I don't write about something I don't care about, because it's not going to be a good piece. So I write a lot about immigration. I write a lot about my immigrant identity, and I write a lot about what that matters for our world. I always try to put like not some theory, but like sort of a lesson, right? Like an opinion attached to that story. And again, I write in stories. I think I think a good story always is really good for getting your message across.
Definitely. So was this piece a nonfiction piece, or was it like a narrative, or?
Which one?
The Gold Key Scholastic, the essay that you published for that.
That one was a that was the American Magazine article.
Okay.
And the American Magazine article was half narrative, so it was a narrative of me at the border, led to some like more reflection on it and like opinion. It was more like an op-ed piece, something like that you might see in the New Yorker maybe.
Yes,
so that's the way to describe it.
I mean, if it's something big like the New Yorker, then obviously it does deserve a good Gold Key Scholastic Award, which is still crazy because those awards, they don't just hand them out to anybody. Like, there's a lot of thought process that gone into it, so obviously it means a lot. And then also you were a Boston Globe Teen Speak writer and panelist, Was that the one you were talking? Was that the panel you were talking about when you were talking about the guy with the brewery, or was that something different?
No, that was a different event. Yeah, but no, that was the opportunity from Boston Globe to submit your writing for like the opinion section that they had for the week, and I got selected to like have my like an excerpt of my piece in there. But more excitingly, I actually got offered to go on a panel a couple of months later about the piece and like about youth in Boston, and it was a lot of fun, that panel. And it was recorded, it was live streamed, and a lot of people came out, so it was good.
Did you like meet new people there, and how was like like the retainment of advice and learning lessons from that experience?
Yeah, no, I think it was super. I met a lot of really cool people. I also got connections at the Boston Globe, which was super helpful for their publishing. Um, and yeah, I just met a lot of connected youth. Honestly, like again, like something as little as like following each other on Instagram and like keeping in touch goes a long way. So yeah, I got connected with a good amount of people there.
Obviously, there are also writers, in their own senses too, whether it's maybe not the same topic or the same topic, but they're also like writers in their own sense too. So, yeah, definitely. So, also with all of that, you were you're a successful blogger and humanitarian activist, but you're also a playwright. So tell us a little bit more about Esperanza and the themes that it follows, and how it connects to you and how it connects to a wider audience.
Okay, so Esperanza is a 10-minute play. So it's a 10 minute. It's a one act, no change in scenery. And it takes place in the kitchen of a family in a Latin American country who's considering if they want to immigrate out of the country or not. Um, it's a conversation between three people: a grandfather, a mother, and a father, and it kind of gets dynamic. People come in and out. But I think the interesting part about it is that it's really supposed to bring light on how much of a sacrifice it is to leave a country. I think in the question of immigration, we rarely talk about how difficult it is for these people to even leave their country, let alone get to our country, stay in our country, thrive in our country, right? Just the mere fact of leaving is a sacrifice, is a lot of effort, is a really hard and lengthy decision. So it just kind of brings a little bit of light on that. And that's what the one act is about, yeah.
Definitely. So how long did it take you? Because I know writing a play definitely takes their time to like edit, revise, and all that. So how was that like thought process and the writing process and all that?
Yeah, it's probably like a week of actually writing the first draft, and then just like 2 weeks of editing. The thing about writing at first is that you can kind of like just get a piece out like actually pretty quickly, unless it's like a book or something. But like most pieces you can actually get out maybe even in 1-2 sittings. But editing, it's a thing that you can't really do at once. You have to come back at it once, leave, come back at it once, leave, come back at it once, leave. And then it depends obviously on what article. Like if you're just doing like breaking news, then obviously you can't come back and edit it 20 times because you have to like publish it now. But I think especially with like those like larger pieces, like plays, short stories and stuff, like it's about the editing process is about like a little bit out, a little bit out, a little bit out. Yeah.
Did you have anyone else edit it for you, or was it just a one-man show?
I had friends look at it, yeah, like for feedback, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because having multiple eyes, especially the editing process, having multiple eyes look at one piece, it definitely like matters a lot. So obviously, with all of this, with the community and culture, you're also a lifeguard at a local swim school. So do you have a history of swimming for like your school or anything like that, or?
No. I just work a part-time job. I think I'm probably not gonna work over the summer, but yeah, I work a part-time job near my school. I think that in like the whole college process, like like compete, like who's the better person, like people really like stigmatize just like having a job. Like you can have a job and get into a good college, guys. Like actually one of my coworkers from like where I work as a lifeguard is also going to Harvard. We're actually going together, and like I trained them like when they like were just starting out. So you can have a summer job. Like you don't need to like always be doing something crazy. Like
Exactly.
making a little money. And that's true.
Doing work on the side too.
Yeah.
Speaking of work on the side, it isn't your summer job, but you also have a program where you teach English to immigrants in your community, and you secured $20,000 for that program. So how did you? Obviously, you have your immigrant status and your heritage to help you. Thank you for that. But like, how did that get off the ground? Was it just you, or was there multiple people with this project started?
Yeah, so that $20,000 figure is really kind of ambiguous because, in theory, I've actually been at like I've spoken at fundraisers that have fundraised over like 200 grand, but I don't think I've myself been the one who actually fundraised that money. So yeah, but like honestly, it has been really as a spokesperson. I haven't been the one to reach out for these grants for the classes. It's really them, the team, and then I kind of just go into the meetings as a spokesperson and kind of talk about the program, etc. And that 20 grand, most of it was from like a one grant from a foundation that's really big on like citizenship and like helping with citizenship, like being a good citizen. That's like the part of the grant. But yeah, like that's pretty much what the work has been like, and it's really easy talking about the classes and how I'm passionate about it when I love it, right? It's easy to fundraise for something that you like. It's easy to get a grant or do things for things that you like, and I think that goes with everything. Like it's a lot easier to find success in things that you like.
Definitely. And this is only in the like Boston area. Is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
like multiple? Okay. Okay. Because there's always outlets. I know there's probably multiple people. I know one of my friends, I think he's Nicaraguan.
Yeah.
He's like part Nicaraguan, part Venezuelan. He also does a lot of humanitarian work. He's very intact with this culture too. So,
Nice.
like I see his work in what you're doing too. So there's multiple people around the country doing exactly what you're doing, fighting for a better cause for immigrant status, immigrant reform, all that. I commend all of y'all for it.
Thank you.
That's a big part of everything, especially because America is called the melting pot of the world because we have so many different cultures in one. All except for like Native Americans, everybody is an immigrant to this country, which makes this area such a beautiful and nice place to live. So, obviously, with all of these accomplishments that I have mentioned, you were the recipient of the Coca-Cola scholarships. How was your trip down to Georgia, Atlanta, and just that experience? Like, because I know you get added to a crazy network of people once you're down there and you are named a Coca-Cola scholar. So, how was that experience in meeting all the other Coca-Cola scholars?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was because really there's a good amount of programming, but a lot of time to just like talk and be with people. So it was a lot of fun. Really meeting 150 other people who have a lot of like similar passions to you, who are. It's very evident that they choose people who they think will contribute to this weekend. So a lot of people who are like really open to talk and really interesting and have done really cool things, but also like are really willing to share and connect. Um, I think I formed a really strong network there. Like we have a group chat of 150 of us. Like I think it's
Oh,
literally
yes.
150. Like every single Coke scholar is in that group chat. It's on Instagram. Um, and yeah, like we'll chat there. We'll do all that. So it's a great network. It was a lot of fun. I actually I made a group of really good friends that I like when we went to admitted students days together. We would hang out and I'll kind of stick with them. And now actually a good amount of Koch scholars are going to Harvard, so I'll have a community when I get there. So I think
Yeah.
it's just a really good community to have, and it's really good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. A few of the people I've already like interviewed, they all like I know two of them or one or two of them. Yeah, they are committed to Harvard.
Yeah,
So,
it's the best.
I did hear a lot of Koch scholars have committed to Harvard. So that's also a good thing too for you because, you know, you don't have to go into Harvard just like oh I don't know anybody because you have the
Yes.
Koch scholars now too. So you already have a bunch of good friends there too as well.
Hmm.
Uh, but as a Koch scholar, you did get it for a reason. So why do you believe you are a Koch scholar?
Yeah, so I'll be clear, I did not think I was going to get a Koch Scholarship. The thing about the Koch Scholarship is that the first round is this like really quick application. It takes like 30 minutes max. And there's no essay. And then from there you move on to the next rounds. I did like put in more effort for the other, obviously the other rounds. Why I got it? I think that the Koch Scholarship looks for like a lot of leadership to help the world, and I think I fit into that with a lot with my work. I think I'm very passionate about the things I do. They also look for passion. And I think that really looked through my essays. I know it's like a really cliche answer. Like I liked the thing, like the thing looked like I was passionate about that thing in my essays. It's kind of like a lot of things that people say. But then again, right, if you're passionate about what you do, if you actually care about what you will do, you will succeed in what you do, and you'll succeed in other things like a Koch Scholarship. I think sometimes cliche advice is some of the best advice you can get.
Definitely.
So, yeah, but and then I think the interview, I had a good interview as well. That definitely helped.
Definitely. If you do what you're passionate about, then it doesn't feel like work. It's more of a pastime, and
Yeah.
it definitely works like that. Yeah. So, to round this interview out, this show, Voice View, is all about empowering the leaders of today and tomorrow. So, what is some advice that you would like to give to our audience members about, getting to the position that you are in today and, just being a successful leader in their community?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that don't be afraid to take a more unconventional path. Don't think that you have to do everything else everyone else is doing. I know specifically like in the spaces that I like have inhabited that we've been talking about, like Harvard, Koch Scholars, stuff like that, HSF Scholars. I haven't had a really like straight trajectorial path there. Like I didn't do as a government person, I didn't do the U.S Senator program. I didn't do NSLYI or whatever it is. I did not know what half of these programs were ever. I didn't do Model UN. I didn't get any debate awards. I didn't win a national essay competition. I didn't do all of these things that I think sometimes we categorize to be like, you're a lock for success if you do this. And there's nothing against these things. I think they're great programs, and maybe if I were to do high school again, I would apply for them. But I think sometimes you have to have like, there's nothing wrong with doing your own thing as long as you're doing your own thing well and with passion. Because I think that I was a lot less confident with myself about the college process and about the scholarship process, and also just about like the professional process, like being a professional, because I thought that like I just did different things. I didn't do the things that you need to do. When there is no things you need to do, the only thing you need to do is just what you like, and what you just have to do it well. Like obviously it's not like roses and rainbows. Do everything you love and everything will be fine. But if you do what you love well, right, and if you succeed in what you like, right, which is a lot easier if you like it. Again, we get back to that like cliche theme. I think that you don't have to worry about. I think you talk about like comparison is the thief of joy and other like cliche pieces of advice, but I think comparison like is the thief of joy also stands with like if you have different accomplishments, right, and you compare yourself to these people, like you don't realize how good your accomplishments are. Because I remember talking to people about like my work with immigration, and all of them were like, what the heck, like I've never heard of anyone who's done this before. This is really interesting. So like don't be afraid to do your own thing, because I think that it's a little like scarier, but like you're a little more nervous to do your own thing sometimes, but I think it can lead to your own type of success if you do it well.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Juan, for hopping on the podcast. First off, thank you so much. It means a lot to me, and you giving this advice to our viewers and to me personally. I am going into senior year myself, so it's that time of year. You went through.
You gotta start locking in, man.
Yeah, locking in. You've already gone through the process. You're into college. You graduated from high school. Once again, congratulations for that.
Yes.
It is a big deal, especially for graduating. But, once again, thank you for joining today on this episode. And to the viewers, thank you for watching till the end. Do follow us on Spotify and YouTube and Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana, and we will see you next time.